Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast. Each week we bring you the best self-publishing tips, tools and resources for authors. I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hail.
Hi. This week we have an amazing guest. We've got Carrie Elks all the way from the UK chatting to us.
Welcome, Carrie.
Hi. So she's got this beautiful accent that's going to be a contrast to us.
Yeah. And she looks fresh as a daisy, and it's nighttime for her, whereas we don't look fresh as daisy.
Carrie is having a good hair day.
She's having a great. You need to
Actually, I am. It's not often that I have a good hair day, but it's working today. It's
looking really good. So you need to go to YouTube, take a look at that.
Yeah, everyone go to YouTube now. So anyway,
quick before it all drops.
Yeah. So anyway, Carrie is a contemporary romance author, and she's going to talk us about marketing, branding, all these exciting things, conferences. But first, Wendy is going to read.
I'm Wendy.
Wendy. No, I forgot that Shah had already read our opening. So now Wendy is
going
to read our bio.
I can see how it's going to go.
It's okay. It's only been 420.
Okay, I'm going to read the bio, so everyone just listen, all right? Carrie Elks writes contemporary romance with a sizzling edge. Her first book, Fix You, has been translated into 8 languages and made a surprise appearance on Big Brother in Brazil. Luckily for her, it wasn't voted out. Carrie lives with her husband, 2 lovely children, and a larger-than-life black pug called Plato. When she isn't writing or reading, she can be found baking, drinking an occasional glass of wine, or chatting on social media. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I listen to you every week, and
thank you.
Author goals ticked off now.
Nice.
Glad to be of service.
Yeah.
So Carrie, tell us about your writing journey. It's a really interesting one. So where did you get started, and how did you get into it?
Okay, so I'm going to give you the kind of short version. Just assume that, like most writers, I was an avid reader and wrote a lot as a kid. But I really got into writing seriously back in about 2011, 2012, when I discovered Twilight fan fiction. And I think you have had other authors on, because I listen, who have come from that world before. Brighton Walsh quite recently, I think, said she also wrote some Twilight fan fiction. And actually, I didn't know her, and that's how big the Twilight fan fiction world was. I never sort of came into contact with her there. But so I started writing Twilight fan fiction in 2012, all human. So where some people wrote about vampires, in my stories, Edward and Bella were human. And you just make up stories about them. And I discovered this whole community. There was obviously readers and writers, but there were also bloggers. There were people who'd make banners for you. There were beta readers who'd read your book first, your chapter first before you'd post it, because you'd post it chapter by chapter, a bit like, I think, Kindle Vella and Wattpad and those kinds of things. And out of that community grew the romance self-publishing community. So the banner makers became cover designers. The beaters went and trained on the Chicago Manual Style and became editors. The bloggers changed their blogs from Twilight fan fiction blogs to book blogs, and a lot of them are still around today. So it's kind of nice to see how well so many people are doing and still have those connections. And funnily enough, there were also agents. So that's how I got discovered. I had a reader who was messaging me about my book, and then one day she sent me a message and said, "Oh, actually, I'm becoming an agent. My friend and I are setting up an agency. Would you be interested in us representing you for one of your books?" And I said to my husband, "This is definitely a scam, but I'm going to go along with it until she asks me for money, and then I'll kind of just back out." So I went along with it, and we are now 11. Maybe 10 years later, and she still hasn't asked me for money, but she has earned me lots of money.
Wow.
Because she sold my first book to Brazil and the UK and those 8 countries that were mentioned in my bio, and some more as well. So suddenly I had this book being released in the UK. It was released in both as ebook and then later on in the shops as well as a paperback. I was riding high with all my translations, and I then decided to write a 4-book series. And got offered a 4-book deal by Hachette, by one of Hachette's imprints. And I thought, that's it, I'm done, I've made it. And those books flopped.
Oh.
And I got dropped by my publisher, and it was about 2017, 2018 at this point, and I had to decide what I was going to do. And I was so frustrated by the whole thing, and I was seeing so many of my friends and acquaintances doing really well at self-publishing that I decided I was going to go and self-publish too, but I was going to do it with intention. So I started studying the market. I'd already decided I wanted to write small town romances. So I started to see what the other mid-list authors who wrote small town romances were doing. I didn't want to model myself on a outlier, because I don't think you can sort of emulate what outliers do, but I think you can emulate what mid-list authors do. And so I really studied them and watched what they did, and I learned they wrote in series. They released regularly, usually with the pre-order for the next book was up before the previous book was released, so that they could feed into that. What else did they do? Oh, they nurtured their readers, so they had great newsletters, great Facebook groups, and they also had learned how to attract new readers as well. So there was kind of three things that I needed to attack in order for that to work. And it started off really slowly. So I released my first series, which was Angel Sand, set in California, because basically I wanted to live on the beach. And so I was just
don't we all
living through my characters, really. A warm beach. I mean, who doesn't like the idea of that?
Exactly.
And so I started releasing those.
You do, yeah. Trudy doesn't
All
like
right,
that.
not everyone likes the idea of that.
It's always one though, right?
All right, yeah.
Always one troublemaker in the group.
Yeah.
You'd want to live at this beach. It's got a lovely coffee shop, and it's not
really hot guys
hot
too. I should have.
Yeah, right. Firefighters and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
They sound awesome.
And
Okay,
then-
That might work. I'm in.
And then I decided. I think have you had Zoe York on before?
Yes.
I think it's fabulous.
Twice.
And she talked about series 2.0
Yeah.
in her books, and really says, your series 1.0 is when you're learning about what works and what doesn't. Series 2.0 is where you take what has worked, double it up, and really release a great series. And my series 2.0 was a series called The Heartbreak Brothers, which I'd learned that small town romances did work for me, but I wanted to get that connection tighter. So whereas Angel Sands was about a group of friends, The Heartbreak Brothers is about a group of brothers and actually one sister as well. And that tightening up of the characters and the readers getting to know all the characters in each book really helped sort of launch that series. So I was finding my income was going up exponentially. At the same time as I released the first book, COVID hit, and it was going to go one way or the other. And luckily for me, it kind of launched really well.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm going to stop talking for a minute now.
I'll talk.
No,
that's okay.
It's all gold.
Yeah. So that's
Right.
really fascinating. I love that what you said doing it with intention. And that's not necessarily a new thing, but I just love the nice, neat way that that's packaged together as a concept. So let's talk a bit about so you talked about the making it brothers instead of friends. I think that's fascinating because that's like it's, and you're tightening it up, right? Like, so what is it about that? Do you think it's because you've got the brothers incorporated right from the beginning, or is it, what's the difference between brothers and friends to you?
I think everybody loves a family dynamic, and as romance readers, we love a hero, especially if we kind of get to know what his weaknesses are as well as his strengths. And you get to see that when you've got a group of brothers. And you also get all the banter. So when they're together, I just love the banter when they're all kind of riffing off each other. Those are the fun scenes to write. And I also love when they actually get emotional with each other, which isn't very often because most of my heroes aren't very good at talking about their emotions. That's why they're in the situations they are. So, and it just works because people are actually anticipating the next book because they've got to know that brother in the previous book. And they can't wait to see him find his own love as well.
I like the fact that you really thought about what you were going to do when you release. Like we talk about that a lot, don't we? Like about being organized, getting prepared, doing your research, checking out and you've obviously done that, And so when you released that series, did you release them very quickly one after the other?
So I was still releasing some Angel Sands books as well, but because it was COVID, I had nothing else to do but write, basically. We were locked down. I know you were locked down for quite a while.
It felt like 5 years, but apparently it wasn't.
And yet it seems so long ago now. I lose track of time completely. But yeah, we were locked down for quite a long time. My children are now adults, so we were all working from home and I had nothing to do but write. So that, I think either the first year I released 5 books and the second year I released 6 books or something like that. So I did release them fairly close together, which is a great thing because I don't always do that now. And I probably should.
Makes a difference.
That's fascinating. Okay, so let's go back to your nurturing the readers, because that's a fantastic So you're putting the books out quickly. You've kind of narrowed down to the brothers. Are the Heartbreak Brothers, where are they set? Is that a beach again, or is that a
No, so that's set in West Virginia. And the reason it's set in West Virginia is because I used to live in Virginia for a while. So but I lived in a very metropolitan part of Virginia and I wanted it to be more rural, so I moved it a bit to the west and set it in West Virginia, where there's a lot of mountains and sort of individual towns and things.
Do you make up your town? Do you make up?
Do I make them up? Oh, completely, completely made up. You would never be able to find it there because it's basically Stars Hollow moved to West Virginia. You know, so it's got a lovely town square and a bandstand and shops all around.
Nice.
And in fact, my next 2 series after that were also set in West Virginia. So I'm kind of getting stuck on West Virginia, but I really like it. So the second, I've got a series set in the mountains. That's more of a wintry series, sort of more of a Christmassy series. Colder, no beach at all. And I've also got a rom-com series.
So
I love Christmas books, so I wanted to write a series of Christmas books. But that one's been quite an interesting one because I just can't bring myself to release Christmas books in the summer. So it's been quite slightly more disjointed the way I've released those books.
You wouldn't do well in New Zealand because it's the middle height of our summer. Sitting outside sweating as we're trying to force down the roast turkey. I have a question, Carrie. With England being such an amazing place as well, why did you set in North America and not closer to home for you?
I've always set my books at least partially in America. I think I've always had this love affair with America when I was writing fan fiction, because Twilight was set in America. It felt natural to set at least part of my books in America. And from the start in fan fiction, a lot of the readers were American as well. So it seemed to fit releasing those there. So that kind of naturally followed into my writing career. And America's a bigger market than England as well. And yes, American readers love English heroes, but I love the American ones. So I kind of write what I love.
And even though you've lived there, we still, I mean, we're in the same position. We still, you know, that you need that sort of, do you have beta readers that are American, just to check that you're using the idioms and that kind of thing?
My editor's American. And that was deliberate because I knew I needed an American editor to pick up all my biscuits and my rubbish bins and my pavements and headlights. You know, there's just so many that you learn.
Can't we all just speak the same, right? How easy would that be?
Quite often, it's quite a ongoing theme in my newsletter, the differences between America and the UK, because I find it so fascinating. Like the other week, I learned something new, that they start their calendars on a Sunday, whereas we start ours on a Monday. Just little things like that you would never learn.
Even the date, right? The date, I'm looking at that, I'm like, I don't get that date. Took me ages to work out the
is that March before the date?
They write it backwards, you know.
Right now,
we write it backwards. I mean, either way.
No,
I'd like to lay claim to the original version.
You could.
I seem more sensible the way we do it. So can we go back? Sorry, I got distracted by the setting of your book. So you're talking about nurturing readers but also attracting new readers. And I think that's kind of almost marketing distilled, right? Like that's what we're doing when we're marketing. We're keeping the people we've got, connecting with new people and connecting with those we already have. So can you first of all talk about some of the things that you do to attract the new readers, and then we'll talk about nurturing the ones you've got?
Yeah. So what's really interesting to me, just before I go on to that, is that sometimes we mistake one thing for the other. So we'll see a really established author doing something and think, oh, I need to do that to find new readers. But actually that action that they're doing is nurturing their current readers. So for example, you see them with a massive newsletter, and you think, oh, I've got to do loads of book funnel things, or I've got to get cold readers onto my newsletter, and then I'll be as successful as them. But that newsletter is big because of their success, not the reason for their success. So somehow they found those readers first, and those readers have got onto their newsletter. So I try and keep it to a couple of things for each marketing action, because I think you can get really lost in trying to do too much and spreading yourself too thin. So I did Skye Warren's ad course, which was amazing, and learned a lot from Skye Warren's sort of way of putting the conflict within the book on the advert. So I did that, and that works really well. So I still do Facebook, and I do AMS ads as well. And then I mostly do TikTok now. And I know we're going to probably talk a bit more about TikTok later. That comes and goes for me. Sometimes I'll find new readers through it, sometimes I won't. But I see it more as a attraction tool than a nurturing tool. Not every author does. I see some authors doing really great at nurturing their readers on TikTok, but it's just not how I use it. So ads and TikTok,
ads
bit
and
of
TikTok
Instagram.
are the new. That's where you're finding your new readers.
Yeah, I mean, I do try other things as well. So I do newsletter swaps sometimes, and I think this year I've done a round robin as well. But those are extras. Those are things that I don't think move the needle that much for me compared to the ads. And
Do you deliberately target on your Facebook ads? You deliberately target your email newsletter to sign up and things like that?
It depends what the ad is. So if it's a new book, then yes, I would, because I'd want them, I want them to be really certain that this book is out. So I would do that at first. But mostly I'm using it to find new readers. So once that honeymoon period of the book is over, and I will sometimes do perennial ads, I am going to target new readers. So I'll either target lookalikes, or I'll target other authors. And at the moment, I'm experimenting with the no target system that some people are advocating. I haven't got any results that are definitive yet. I like the idea of trying new things.
Do you do it all yourself, Carrie, or have you got an assistant?
I do my ads myself. I've got 2 assistants, but they don't do the ads or the TikTok for me. So I have one assistant in the States who does my Instagram posting and my Facebook page posting, and she also helps me manage my group. And then my son also works for me, and he does all the money side. So he does all my accounting, he does my newsletters, my website, anything technical that doesn't involve having to be social, basically.
That sounds awesome.
So they're both very good at what they do.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Are you wide, or are you Amazon exclusive?
At the moment, I am Amazon exclusive, and it's worked really well for me, but I am currently looking at trying to go do some direct sales. I tend to wait to see if things are working first. So I'm not an early adopter of things. Like in our house, we were about the last people on the street to get a video recorder when I was a kid, and that's a bit like my writing life now, really. So I'll wait and see what's working for people, take the information in, and then decide if it's something I want to try or not. But I'm very interested in direct sales, so I've actually just sent my son on a course for it, because I want him to set it all up for me.
Sounds like he'd be perfect for doing it.
He sounds like exactly.
So could you give us sort of like a percentage of how much you're spending from your ads to how much you're earning, like just to give an indication?
I would say so in terms of earning, I am last year and this year were both, let's say, mid 6 figures, and I would say somewhere between 30 to 40% of that is ads. So quite a high amount if you look at it. So it's not a small amount, but I didn't start spending that much. I've never gone into debt. I would never advocate anyone going into debt. I've always made a profit, even if it's the tiniest profit, and then I would have reinvested. And I've got to the point now where I'm earning a really comfortable living. I've managed to sort of max out pensions and that sort of thing. So it is really, I feel comfortable spending what I'm spending.
Yeah,
I
managed to spend less last year, by the way, thanks to TikTok.
Yeah,
but
I don't think that's an uncommon amount. Like I'm not sort of shocked by that. I've heard other people saying
that's
same
about
amount,
what I would spend as well.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
No, that's cool. I was just curious about that one. So TikTok helped last year.
Tell us about TikTok.
Fabulous last year. So I started doing TikTok in 2021, I think. And again, I get all mixed up by any date that we happened to be in lockdown. But I did a course. I did the TikTok Sells Books course. And I'd never used TikTok before, but I was just kind of interested in it, and I did feel like a late adopter at that point. But it turned out that I was quite an early adopter. And my kids just thought it was hilarious that I did a 2-week course on how to use TikTok. And then I told them about the time I had to go on a course for 2 days to learn how to use the internet, and they thought that was even more hilarious. But times are different now.
Exactly.
So I did that course, and I just really enjoyed it. TikTok just really kind of floated my boat. So I started off sort of posting a couple of times a day, and then I read somewhere, to grow, you need to post 5 times a day. So back in 2021, I was posting 5 times a day and really enjoying it. Just a whole load of rubbish. I mean, if you scroll back down to my original posts, I would actually be embarrassed for you to watch.
We're all going to do that now, you know that.
And I didn't get a whole lot of traction. I think I got one viral TikTok that year, and it was me dancing, which is just horrendous anyway. And the text said something like, my husband doesn't have to worry about me cheating because I go under the sheets with my book boyfriends every night, which I thought was hilarious. But it got into the wrong people, into the wrong part of TikTok, and I was getting all these men commenting on my TikTok. Lots and lots of lovely offers. Unfortunately, I'm very happily married. So that was an example of how not to go viral. It didn't sell a single book, and probably got me a lot of the wrong followers as well. But it didn't really matter because it was all just a bit of fun. And then last year, I must have just caught the zeitgeist. I think TikTok was kind of taking off, and I was still posting like 2 or 3 times a day, and I would go viral regularly, and I would just see the sales shoot up every time I went viral. And it was so much fun. I loved it. And then they changed the algorithm and suddenly, where I was getting tens to hundreds of thousands of views, I was getting like 500 views. And it became less fun then.
When was that? When did that happen?
So around sort of January this year, I think.
That's what I thought.
It really changed. It was changing towards the end of last year, and I think it was a mixture of things. They brought in the TikTok shop, so they were monetizing it, and I knew that this would happen at some point. Either you'd have to pay for ads, or TikTok shop would happen, because if you've been around a while, we all saw it happen with Facebook pages as well. At one point you'd post something on your Facebook page and you'd sell a load of books, and then suddenly you're having to pay for ads. And there's not a social media sort of company out there who isn't trying to make money. Why not?
No,
that's why they're
exactly,
there.
You're right.
So I knew it was going to happen. So what I had done last year was I'd made sure that all my books had bonus epilogues that people would sign up for my newsletter to read. So when those books went viral, luckily I managed to keep a lot of those readers with me.
That was going to be my question, is how many of those people actually transferred to being kind of regular readers. And so you thought that through?
Some. I think TikTok viewers are kind of very trope driven. So, and I write a whole lot of different tropes, and they like the newest things as well. So some of them, if they're KU readers, would then read through my whole catalogue, and that was always really lovely. I got a lot of people saying, I found your books through KU, which was great. And I imagine probably 90% of them I didn't keep with me. But you don't.
Is that so? I'm just curious about TikTok. It's something I've never thought of before. So do you think there's people on there that are just reading because that's trendy on TikTok? Like they'll read a book because they've seen it and everyone else is reading it? Like, is that a thing? Or do you think they're seriously looking?
Probably a thing. I think that's a thing more for the sort of book talkers. So if you think of sort of what were bloggers or Instagrammers, who will read a book and share it with their followers, and everyone else will go and read it. I also think there's I call them quiet readers, because I'm a quiet reader. I find my books just through browsing on Amazon, or sometimes looking through TikTok. Excuse me, I'm going to cough.
All right. I've been doing it the whole time.
And I just want a good story, basically. So I think there are a lot of those, and those are the ones that I mostly find through my TikToks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And do you think,
because I've never been picked up by BookTokers, so any TikTok sales I've had are usually through me rather
Okay, you haven't approached a BookToker at all yourself?
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
I'm not good at
good.
approaching people.
Yeah.
One of the things I hate doing is messaging people saying, please, can you do this for me? So I don't.
Yeah,
I never have. So
we all struggle with that too, I think.
We do. We talk about that quite a lot, how terrible we are at. I mean, I emailed Carrie this year and asked her if she would newsletter swap with me. And I tell you what, I've just about broken a sweat doing it. But
she would have been like crying on the floor after she
rolling and rocking. But Carrie was amazing, and she just and I love you guys, and she didn't even want to have.
I was like, Rosie Bellens emailed me.
But what I'm saying is, quite often we build this sort of fear, and it's actually, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to say no, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it will be a rock on the floor, but it's like, it's funny, isn't it? I hate it, absolutely hate it.
And I think that's why some people have assistants do it, or they use a PR firm to do it, because it does. We are usually introverted people who don't like asking for things, so it feels very unnatural. And that's why I really like ads, because I'm just paying for it. I'm not asking anyone for a favor. I'm just paying to put my ad out there, and I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Do you use the the promotional sites, the email, Red Feather Romance, those sort of things as well?
Yeah, so I've got a book bub tomorrow, actually. So I've had a good few book bubs this year, which has been good. And I do use, I think there's KU Obsession, which will send stuff out for me. A few different ones that I do use, Free Booksy. And then I jumped in on a few Zoe bubs and those sorts of things too. So if something's around, I will use those as well as attraction.
Do you have
Go, Shah.
I was just going to say, are you a scheduler? Do you have I'm going to do the food every month I'm going to do something?
2025 today.
Nice.
So I know what books I'm releasing. I have all the book covers ready. I know what tropes they're going to be. And then, so for example, next year, if I'm planning to release 4 books, I'll then see what months are empty and maybe plan a sale for some of them or some sort of promotion or a box set. I try and always fill in each month with something. No matter how big or small.
How long do you wait to box set after release?
I tend to box set once the third. So I tend to box set in 3s. So once the 3rd book is out, whenever I have a big break in between books, I'll just bring the box set out then. So I don't do it with a lot of fanfare or anything. I just kind of put it up there. And in fact, I've done it once and forgotten about it completely. And for 3 months, it wasn't even in KU. So don't do what I do with box sets.
That's brilliant. You sound very much like me, actually.
Yeah, you do actually. It's quite interesting. Can I just ask? So I was just thinking about going back to TikTok. So we've meandered away from TikTok, but I'm going to bring us back because that's fine. It's all gold. But one thing about TikTok, do you feel like it's made you a better blurb writer or sales copywriter?
Good point. Yeah.
So what I learned really early on in TikTok, have you heard of sort of butter scenes or universal fantasies? Theodora Taylor's. Yeah. Those work really well as TikToks. So first of all, you have to work out what your universal fantasies are in the books you have and bring those into your TikToks. And then you start to work out, actually, I can write things that I know will work into the future books. So, if you're writing I released a hockey romance this year. So, of course, you're going to have a scene where she's wearing his jersey. Those kind of things, the universal fantasy of that particular trope just work really well on TikTok. So, yes, I use it. And I say to people as well, even if you don't post on TikTok. You can still use it for research, see what readers are loving, make sure you scroll through it. You can put in the hashtag, if you're writing an enemies to lovers book, hashtag enemies to lovers, see what the top videos come up as and see what readers are loving about those particular scenes. Because most TikToks do either they'll center around a scene or they'll center around the character. And either way, you can learn a lot from those. So yeah, even if you don't TikTok, you can still use it for research.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
because this is all about you doing it with intention. I feel like as you've gone along, you're doing it even with more intention, like you're learning from the TikToks, even if they're not selling the books like they used to, you've actually learned how to use it to your advantage and how to use it for your future books. So that's brilliant.
So when you plot out a series, are you you're working out, enemies to lovers, you're doing all the way in each of those books, you're setting your tropes?
Yeah, I mean, I won't know exactly how the story is going to go, but I'll know. So, for example, the Heartbreak Brothers, I knew there was going to be 4 brothers and a sister, and I knew what each trope was going to be before I wrote them, which makes it easier in a way when you're writing the first one, because you know what the sort of internal wounds are going to be for the other characters. But I won't, because I still do like discovering things as I write. It would be very mechanized if I knew everything up front. So I do still kind of leave myself some room to move.
You're not a plotter right through, or do you pants or plot?
A bit of both, really. I sometimes pants and I sometimes plot. When I pants, I really regret it. Because it takes
I always regret it, but there's nothing I can do about it.
So I more recently I plot it. I can write a book a lot quicker if I plot than if I don't plot, but sometimes I need to write some of the book to really work out where it's going as well. So it varies from book to book.
Do you have a plotting method, or?
I have like a spreadsheet, and I look at the character wounds, and I think I use the take off your pants mixed with romance the beat. So I kind of made my own up. And then this time I've started using Plottr, because I won a free trial with Plottr at Nink when I went to Nink, and I got a 1 hour session with a user who taught me how to use it. And essentially I was like, wow, this is like my spreadsheet, but it's online and it's much easier. So because I didn't really know what Plottr was before I used it. I thought it was some kind of AI thing, but it's not at all. It just helps you write down what's going to happen in each scene and then kind of bring it all together. It's just a much smoother way of doing things.
I love how you can do the different subplots as well. Like you can have the main plot, and then above that you could kind of say, okay, well, this is the subplot, and this is where like multiple layers of the same story.
And I wanted to put a little arc in, and then you can like put a little arc in to make sure that over the book you're actually addressing all the points you want in that arc as well.
It's genius. Anyway,
amazing. Sounds really good.
It's that like Wendy to pulling nails is the equivalent.
No, I'd love to. I really would love to. I mean, after this, I will open Plottr again, because I do it every time someone comes on and talks about something and try it and fail.
Yeah, no, it's on your head, though.
It's not about failing. It's just that it doesn't work for you, Wendy. It's not you failing.
You have your process. I think
some things are never going to work.
No,
I kind of follow Becca Syme a lot as well, and learn why some things work for me and some things don't. I'm like number 4, discipline. So it's really easy for me to plan things out ahead of time and make sure I do them.
Top five. No, top 5. Tell us your top 5.
No, my top 5. I am number 1, input. Number 2, intellection. Number 3, empathy. Number 4, discipline, and I can't remember what number 5 is.
Okay, that's an interesting mix. That's a nice mix.
Discipline is a good one to have. I do not have the discipline.
I'm pretty sure mine's...
anyone in the world that hasn't done that.
Cheryl.
No writers. I made my son do it as well. He's number 1, harmony, which is very interesting.
Okay.
He just likes everybody to be happy.
Yeah. That would be a difficult one to have as your first one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm input number 1 too, so go the input.
I mean, I can, that's why I love podcasts. I could literally listen to podcasts all day and be happy.
Me too.
So, thank you for doing
and I basically do.
I have to be doing
And-
something else. So if I'm doing like
Yeah.
if I'm driving in the car
Yeah.
or anyway, that's when I
Same.
listen
I
to.
want to actually talk about Nink. If that's
Oh
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I think we get away from the fact that how important these conferences are, especially to
Yeah.
authors of any level, right? Because to
Yeah.
actually be there in person and listen to people. So tell us about Nink. Tell us how much you enjoyed it. I know you were talking about it, talking at length.
mainly
Yeah,
so
I
we
did.
can live vicariously through you.
Yeah,
So make
because
it
we
as
live in New
vivid
Zealand. We have to travel
you
for
can.
miles to get anywhere.
So just
I
to
went to the
clarify,
beach.
Nink is a conference
Yeah,
for
sorry.
So it's run by Novelists Inc., which is a writers organization. It's been around for a very long time. Started off primarily as a traditionally published writers organization, and over the years it's kind of transformed into a mixture. And I think there was more self-published authors there this year than traditionally published authors, but there were both. And you have to join Nink, you have to earn a certain amount per year. I don't think it's massively high, but I do remember that when I first started, it was out of my reach, so I couldn't join. And I have always, since the early days of writing, because I used to be on K-boards, I never really used to post on there, but I used to lurk and I'd see all these people talking about going to Nink.
Me
and it was one of my dreams.
Yeah.
And so this year I qualified and signed up, and I applied to go to the conference, and then Tawdra Candle, who is one of the organisers, messaged me and said, would you like to talk about TikTok? And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know that I can talk about TikTok because it doesn't always work for me. So I literally just throw stuff up there and see what sticks. But I could talk to you sort of about using TikTok in marketing and a wider marketing talk. So that's what I ended up doing.
Nice.
So my husband and I flew out there, had a few days on the beach, working, of course, in case the taxman's listening. And then I think it started on Wednesday evening and goes through till the Sunday morning. And it was just amazing, not just aimed at romance, which is what I am, but all genres, people earning at a certain level, really wanting to learn new things. And there was a lot of talk about AI. There were a lot of talk about direct selling. Those were the two sort of big things that everyone was talking about while we were there. And I found it really interesting.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's nothing like getting a group of writers together, often in a semi-informal situation when, just chatting backwards and forwards. It's a wonderful experience.
We've got a goal. We want to go to Nink, don't we? Us three.
I want you to go to Nink next year.
Yeah.
What we're aiming for.
That's what we're aiming for Nink next year, are we? I can't remember. I think we're aiming for something.
We're aiming for anywhere.
There's Ram, there's Nink.
Anywhere that will have us.
Can we get it both?
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say is Nink has the cabanas and Ram has Skywarrock. So they're
you
all
had me
like
at cabana.
bonuses,
really.
aren't they?
So did you
The
find there's a lot of
cabanas
networking at Nink? Like, did you meet other people
so
that you...
people were just so friendly. There's a main lobby in the hotel. So you stay in a hotel. It's a massive hotel on the beach called the Trade Winds, and it's got a lobby. So in between sessions, you're all kind of hanging out in the lobby. Food is included, so you have lunch together and dinner together, and then everyone goes down to the tiki bar by the beach in the evening, and you can have a chat and a cocktail or a beer and watch the sun go down because you're on the west coast of Florida, sort of Mexican Gulf side, and so you get to see the sunset over the beach, and it really was absolutely beautiful. I want to go back.
Oh, yeah. I think you've convinced us. We've just
the people were fabulous, and there's not just obviously all the writers I met were great. I made some really good friends. All the vendors are there as well. Sort of KDP, Draft Digital, people from Book Funnel, Book Vault, just anyone, and they're all really willing to talk to you one-to-one about any issues you've got. They'll tell you about their things that are coming up that you might want to try. So it's a really good place to make contacts. And I imagine all the other conferences are the same as well. I mean, there's
for sure
20 books coming up soon, which is a lot bigger than Nink, but they have vendors there too. So
it's amazing. Awesome. I don't think you can. I think if you're a newbie and you think that it's not worth it, it really is. I mean, if you just target one and just save and go, I mean, I think you're gold. They really are invaluable.
And I've done RAM 3 times now, but always virtually. And I've learned so much from that. But I think you can't that you do miss out on the networking side of stuff if you don't attend in person.
And as writers, we spend a lot of time on our own, so it's good for us to actually get out of our cave and speak to people, right?
Yeah,
I know. And it is, I was so nervous. I was so nervous about meeting people, but I forced myself out to go and talk to people, and it was good.
Good on you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
We travel everywhere as a pack, so we're okay. We've got our own friends with us.
Yeah.
And people all know who you are as well, so make a beeline for you.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, so you gave this amazing talk about marketing at
I don't know if it was amazing, but I gave a talk. Yeah,
I'm sure it was fantastic.
Sure
having chatted to you thus far, I'm sure it was genius. So one thing you said earlier, and I think maybe it was in your talk, so I want to kind of segue back into that. It was talking about making a sort of a circle as your kind of your marketing. Can you explain what you meant by that and kind of just expand on it a bit?
Yeah, of course. So the gist of my talk really is that marketing is in everything that you do as a writer. So when you're writing that book, I'm thinking about how I'm going to market that book. I'm making sure that I am putting the tropes in there that I know readers will love, the scenes that readers will love, that I'll be able to use in adverts and in TikToks, that I'm putting the link to the next book in at the end of the book, just simple things like that sometimes, so that readers can then click on and pre-order the next book. So just making sure that book is, I think Skye Warren calls it set up for success or something like that, but just making sure that book is as good as it can be, writing in series, because I know that when I come to advertise, that having a series will mean that I'm not losing money by advertising. So the marketing begins with the book, and then the next step is attracting the new readers. So you use that new book to attract readers, whether it be by TikTok, advertising, going towards influencers, which is what we talked about earlier, something that I find really hard, but other authors do brilliantly at that. So whatever way you use to attract new readers, you get them into that book, but then you need to keep them with you, and that's kind of like a funnel. So you need to transition them from being readers to being fans, and I tend to do that by bonus epilogues. So they'll sign up to download a bonus epilogue, they'll become part of my newsletter, and then I send newsletters out each week and try and be as honest about myself and try and cheer people up as much as possible. My newsletters go out on a Saturday morning, and I imagine a lot of people, if they're as lazy as I am, are in bed on a Saturday morning scrolling through their phone. There's an email from Carrie, let's have a read of that. What stupid thing has she done this week? And yes, usually something. And then when the next book comes out, you then email them because they're on your newsletter, or you tell them in your Facebook group because they're in your Facebook group, or whatever method you do. Some people use Patreon. Whatever you do to nurture those readers, they then move on to the next book, and then you kind of go through the cycle again, and each time you're trying to grow that readership so that the circle becomes bigger and bigger as time goes on. And you will lose some readers, you always do, for whatever reason, but if you keep growing your attraction side of things, hopefully your bottom line will grow as well. That's the aim.
I think what I love about the way you've spoken to us today is you kept it very simple. I think we overcomplicate, don't we? Because I'm someone who will see something and say, I need to try that. I've got to try that. I've got to try that. Like shiny new object syndrome. But I feel like you've just sort of, kept focused, taken one or two things and just drilled down into those things until they work, or if they don't work, and then you move on to the next, which I think, and really
think about why you're doing it as well. So for example, a free book club. So I've got a free book club this week. Why have I got a free book club? Not because I just want to give my book away for free, not even because I want to see it at number 20 in the free charts. I'm giving away that book because I want readers to read it and want to read the rest of my books. So I make sure that the back matter is ready before the free book club. I make sure that there's a series there that they can go on and read once the book club goes out. I'll make sure that there's a bonus epilogue at the end, because if they like free books and they like a free epilogue, then I may be able to nurture them into becoming longer term readers. So again, whatever you're doing with marketing, try and work out why you're doing it, and that will make you do it better, I think.
And I like the idea that you talk about, so you knew that TikTok wouldn't be something that lasts forever, but it's a tactic you're willing to use for whatever time. But you had like a long-term strategy for
Yeah.
when TikTok isn't as useful, well, at least I've got these readers onto my newsletter and I've kind of used it for what it needs to be used for at that time, and then are willing to kind of move on to the next thing and find the next tactic that may be the thing. Like I think sometimes we get scared.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's okay not to like things like TikTok as well. You know, when some people just say, I don't want to do that, I think that's fine, because you don't have to do TikTok to do well. There's a billion authors out there who are doing really great without TikTok, but they're doing something else to attract those readers.
Yeah.
And again, you know, these things come and go, and I've been around for too long now to think that anything's here for good.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I like that you reuse your TikTok videos and YouTube too, don't you? You know,
I have, I stopped doing that actually because I got lazy, but I also reuse them in Instagram, and I sometimes use them as Facebook ads too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like you talking as a Facebook ad, or
no? So these will be page clips, usually, or videos that I've sort of used from Canva or whatever. Just with the story of the book in them, but mostly page flips seem to work really well for me as adverts on Facebook. And videos seem to be a lot cheaper than static ads.
Yeah, that's the great thing. The product's not lost, is it? You know,
no,
you know, you can always
it.
repurpose, can't you? You put it in your email or whatever. You know, it's
exactly.
great. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Work
and I
smarter,
really like,
not harder.
Yeah, and I like that you've got
definitely.
this. What you're hanging it on is that circle that you're talking about. It's like there needs to be ways to get new readers. There needs to be ways to nurture the current readers. You know, and I need to be writing the books that readers want to read. So I need to be writing the books. So there's kind of these. Doesn't matter how you're finding the new readers as long as you are.
No.
And it doesn't, you know, don't do all the things, just pick
whatever.
You can't, and you'd go crazy, right? Chasing your tail, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I mean, and I think we all at the start of our careers we do try everything, and I think it's kind of important to do that, because you need to work out what works for you and what doesn't. A bit like being a pantser or a plotter. And I still know that I cannot email influencers, so I don't. Whereas other people hate TikTok, so they don't do it, but they'll be doing more adverts, or they will be emailing influencers, or they'll be doing more book bubs, or whatever it is they do to find those readers. So it really doesn't matter what you do. That's is it the difference between tactics and strategy or something? So the strategy stays the same, but the tactics change. And we have to pivot all the time.
So I've got a question. How do you balance between the actual writing, the creation side of the business versus your marketing and the business side of the business?
Badly. No.
I don't believe that.
No, I don't believe it either.
Writing comes first. So I tend to write in the mornings, and I can write usually around, my happy spot is about 2,500 words. So I can write that in the morning, and then the afternoons will be for marketing or answering emails, or making our new adverts, or usually scrolling through TikTok or Facebook and pretending that I'm working, because I like to lie
that's
to
a writer's
myself.
job to do.
I like
that
honesty.
Exactly. But I also on the last Friday of the month I plan the next month. So it's I used to actually go I used to go to a co-working space and do it just to get my head out of the house, but I tend to do it at home now. So I'll plan all my posts for the month. I'll plan what my newsletter is going to say for the month. So I already know then, when it comes to write them, what those newsletters are going to be about, what books I'm going to share. If I'm doing a newsletter swap, I've got the queen of spreadsheets. I've got a spreadsheet for what I'm swapping, what the subject is, and then I'll just write it and send it off every week. So I try and make my life as easy as possible. But it's sometimes I found it hard. I had I wasn't burned out, but I was pretty close to it for a few months, probably over the summer. So I took a real step back from doing some things. I think I stopped doing ads so much, and I stopped doing TikTok so much because I needed a break. But I feel pretty good, so I'm back at it now.
I think it's good to listen to yourself and sometimes just acknowledge you do need a break and not keep pushing through, because that's when the wheels really fall off for a lot of us.
I do feel like
doing too many things.
a cycle. It's like we feel like we have to do all the things all the time and
we
forget to
expect
kind
the
of give
rush.
ourselves some downtime. So it's great that you
Yeah,
did
you don't
that.
get to enjoy it sometimes. And I think
Yeah.
that
Just
for
work.
me is the important thing. You know, I think I've released 5 books this year. Sometimes my husband doesn't even know I'm releasing a book until I say to him, "Oh, it's my release day tomorrow."
Yeah.
Back when I first started releasing books, he'd buy me flowers. This is not his fault, by the way, this is mine. He'd buy me flowers, we'd go out for dinner, we'd celebrate it. And somewhere along the way,
You forgot.
you know, maybe at book 25 or something, I stopped celebrating it so much. And I think actually it'd be really nice to go back to and hey, I wrote, edited, and published a book. It's exciting.
I agree totally. I mean, I'm on my 55th or something like that, but I'm the same. I'm just like, oh, book's out, had a release.
Yeah.
You know, what's next? It becomes just a product, you know, like, oh, that's gone. Get out of my face. I don't want to know about you anymore. I'm on to the next, you know, and that's not
exactly. And I tend to write a bit ahead. So I'm already over that book by the time it releases. I'm writing the next book 1 book by that point.
Oh, geez.
And it's wrong. We really should acknowledge what we've done. I mean, you know, it's a wonderful thing.
It's what I don't know, Carrie. Are you like Wendy? Wendy gets antsy though if she's finished a book and she doesn't start another one. Like she says to herself, "I'm not going to write another book for a month." And then you get about 2 days into her month, and she's like, "I might just practice write,
just playing,
just play with the whole new book." Do you do that?
So I for the longest time since COVID, I didn't schedule any downtime in. And it's only been this year really, because we went to Nink and then we flew up to New York and we had sort of met family. And so I had to take 2 weeks off and I found it really difficult. So next year I've actually tried to schedule in after the end of writing each book, because I know how long it's going to take, how long it's going to take me to edit it. I've tried to give myself sort of a month in between books. So it'll be interesting to see if I'm like Wendy and if I keep
another one.
I was sick for
another pen name.
I had a month. I was sick and I was lying in bed and doing various things and you know, sitting in a chair looking pathetic, and I was like, I need to write, you know. My husband's like, no writing, you know.
She got
like,
really angry. She was like,
some people like to just exercise, and if they don't, they get antsy. Well, I'm a bit like that with writing.
And to be honest, even if I'm not writing, I'll make up the ideas in my head anyway, which is I think probably where a lot of us started when we were younger, daydreaming. And I still do that a lot.
Awesome.
That's fascinating.
Okay.
I feel like maybe we're rolling into
reaching the end
interview. I've gotten all the gold from you, but just before we go, one last question. I know everyone goes, but what's the one piece of advice that you'd give like a newbie author starting out to, you know, to help them in their career?
One piece of advice. Oh my goodness. I'm going to assume they've written the book, because my first piece of advice would be write the book. I think it would be don't bank everything on your first book. Because I think when you write that first book, it's the book of your heart. You think it's going to change your life, and sometimes it does, but for most people it's just the beginning of a career. So don't give up if it doesn't go according to plan. Keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great, cool, great advice.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Carrie. It's been a fantastic chat. I'm super excited for everyone to listen to this one. So if someone wants to check out your books or ask you a question or whatever, where's the best place to find you?
So you can find me on my website, www.carrieelks.com, all one word, .com, and or on TikTok. You'll find me there, and then I'm usually on Facebook too, but everything's on carrieelks.com.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Okay. Thank you so much. And Shah, where can we be found?
We can be found at spargirlspodcast.com, and we are on Patreon at Spargirls Podcast there, where you can check out some exciting new offerings there for our supporters at Patreon.
Brilliant.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Spargirls podcast. Thank you, Carrie. And we will see you all again next week. But for now, goodbye.
Bye.